Okay, great. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you to everyone for joining us here today. You're here for the City of Gainesville Fellowship Info Session. Thank you for registering in advance. I'm here with a few of my colleagues and we'll make some introductions here in a moment. If you have any questions during the course of this presentation, please feel free to drop that in the chat or use the raise hand function. We will take questions about the internship in general at the end. But if you have urgent matters in the meantime or something that you need, drop it in the Q&A and our colleague Anna will be happy to answer for you. Just a few housekeeping items. Please do mute yourself unless you're speaking. Again, use the raise hand and chat features during Q&A. The agenda for this afternoon is quite simple. We're going to give you a brief overview of the program and the partnership between ourselves and the city. We'll discuss the application process. We have a current and a former City Fellow who will give a little bit of insight into their experience, and finally we'll open it up for Q&A. So again, I'm Marianne Vernetson. I'm the Associate Director here at the Graham Center on UF's campus. Carissa, could I ask you to introduce yourself?
Of course. So hi, everyone. My name is Carissa Raskin. I am the Civic Collaboration Specialist at the City of Gainesville, and I work out of the Office of Strategic Initiatives, which I can tell you a little bit more a little bit later in the presentation. But thanks for being here.
Thanks, Carissa. Zariah, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Zariah Folston. I am the Policy Oversight Administrator here at the City of Gainesville. And like Carissa, I'm excited to tell you about all the possibilities of joining our team. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. And Addie and Morgan, we'll get to you all a little bit later, but Addie and Morgan are our fellows who are here to tell us a little bit about their experience. So let's get started. First of all, the City of Gainesville Fellowship is a program that was established several years ago. It's a partnership between the Graham Center and the city. We are the academic unit on campus that works with the city to identify students who wish to intern with the city, learn a bit about local government, and have a robust academic year-long internship experience. The positions are part-time, roughly 15 hours a week. They do begin this fall when our academic year starts, and they typically conclude in the spring. I know there have been some occasions where interns have stayed on, and I am sure Carissa and Zariah will address that later. The second piece that the Graham Center handles primarily is the academic course credit piece. To participate in the internship, you are required to have at least one internship credit in the fall and one in the spring. You can take more than one credit, but you do have to take at least one. You can also take course credit within your major. So if there's something that you're trying to wrap up in political science or in your design degree, we can certainly assist you with those options as well. The other thing to note is hopefully by this summer, IDS 4940 will actually be a 0 to 3 credit option. And so if you don't need any more course credit, it would go on your transcript, but you will not be required to pay for the credit itself. Carissa and Zariah, I'd like to pass it over to you to talk a little bit about the paid opportunity and the mentor program.
Sure, so I can start. So again, everyone, my name is Carissa Raskin from the City of Gainesville. So this opportunity is one where, the city very much values the expertise, the innovation, and the time commitment that our fellows are able to provide us as you all are helping the city in moving forward with some core projects that are fundamental to our team and to the benefit of the city at large. Therefore, this is a paid opportunity, and we are able to offer the living wage. The current rate, I believe, although don't quote me on this, I'm scrambling to try to find it. I believe it's $14.25 to our fellows, and Addie is shaking his head, and so I believe I am correct in my estimation there. And so what this opportunity really is for through it's a competitive recruitment, selection, hiring process. And so for our fellows who are brought on board, you will undergo the standard HR practices in terms of onboarding. And then once you are working with the city, you will be working with an assigned mentor, so to speak, a staff member on the team in which you are assigned based on the position that you have applied for. And that mentor kind of serves as your supervisor, but also as a guide to help you as fellows gain hands-on experience in what it is like to work for our local city government. Learn some new techniques, learn some of the behind the scenes as to how the city works, but really gain a sense for how the skills and the knowledge and the theories and philosophies that you're learning about through your academic career at the University of Florida can be leveraged in a hands-on capacity to benefit our community at large through the work you're doing at the city. So I'll pause there, and Zoraya, if there's anything you want to kind of add to that description, feel free.
Perfect. I think you summed it up. You talked about the fact that this is a paid internship or fellowship, and it's 1425. If I could add something, one of the things I would love to add is not only are you going to get real world skills, not only are you going to get paid, you're going to get opportunities to meet people and to engage our neighbors and engage commissioners in terms of what's happening in our community. In particular, on my side, you're also going to get a chance to be able to help shape policy, to be able to be involved in the policy conversation, and to provide a level of expertise through your research that's going to enlighten not just the commissioners, but our entire community on what it is that this policy would do for our community, what would happen as a result of it. And so it's exciting. You can be working on anything from a policy dealing with the environment, to a policy dealing with gender, to a policy dealing with homelessness. There's so many different facets, to mobility, to transportation, to housing, to food access. We deal with it all. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited that we get another opportunity to add some great talent and intellect and skill and just genuinely good people to our team. I've been very pleased with who we've gotten through this fellowship with the Graham Center, and I look forward to continuing to get great candidates and applicants. Please apply. Please put your best foot forward. I will share with you that on our side, writing is a critical component. Having good writing skills, being able to write good research papers is a really critical skill for us, as well as being able to present. Because one of the things you'll be able to do with us is that after you've completed your research, if that research is submitted to come before the General Policy Committee meeting, you'll have a chance to be able to present your research to the full commission and to our neighbors and to whomever else may be watching. So you have an opportunity to be able to do some public speaking, to do some presentation, to work on your presentation skills, as well as, again, to be able to craft solid policy with myself and Morgan. So I'm excited that you guys thought it not robbery, to just tune in today to hear from us and to glean and to learn some new insights into what it is that we have to offer you guys as students. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Zoraya and Krista. That's great. And a perfect segue to get to the part that I think most of our students will be interested in next to the application process. What are the specific positions available? While there are descriptions on our website, I think Anna's going to drop in the links to those. I thought maybe you could each talk a little bit about which positions work within your offices and some of the key components of each. Again, the full descriptions are being shared, but just some highlights of each might help our students think of questions they might have.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's an awesome opportunity. And so before I start, because the bulk of these positions do live within the Strategic Initiatives Department, Zoraya, you were already kind of going into a little bit more detail about the Policy Research Fellow, which is a position that is within our clerk's office where Zoraya is housed. And so Zoraya, is there any additional information that you'd want to add to the description that you just gave?
Sure. So the position that we're looking for, you'll be a research fellow here and a part of the policy team. And as Carissa just stated, my office is housed up under the city clerk. And so within the city clerk is one of the charter officers here at the city of Gainesville. So you'll be working with myself, the city clerk, as well as Morgan, in terms of just crafting good policy. So to give you kind of idea what you'll be doing, We're here essentially to help formalize policy ideas, to help refine policy questions, research and write reports, which provide a preliminary overview of a topic. And we give that preliminary overview of a topic based on getting a research request from an individual commissioner or from commissioners themselves. I've even gotten requests from charter officers to do research for them as well. And so once we take that question that they give to us, one of our steps is that we bring it, or I bring it back to the team, and we formalize additional questions that we can say, okay, what's the best question to research? What's the best question for us to really be able to delve into what it is specifically that that commissioner wants to see in terms of an end product, or the commission wants to see in terms of an end product. So what's exciting about that is we're able to take an idea, and I have a philosophy, a management philosophy, if you will, that our job is to put feet to whatever it is, the vision, the idea that our commissioners or the commission as a body bring to us. So we're there to put feet to that vision, that that vision can now move, it can now flow, it can now go within our community, within our organizational structure. So you'll be a research fellow, policy research fellow in my office, which is up under the city clerk. And again, we just take those ideas and we formulate policy research questions, and then we write readable preliminary overview, 30,000 feet, if you will, research papers. And we do that many of times, most times at the request of individual commissioners. So you'll get a chance to interact with individual commissioners. You'll get a chance to interact with the commission, as I said earlier, in terms of doing your presentation. But there's a lot of dialogue that you'll have with myself, and there's dialogue that you'll have with the city clerk as well. So I encourage you, if you have really good, strong writing skills, if you have people skills, because you will have to do some research. Sometimes you have to call other municipalities. Sometimes you have to call other organizational units to just ask them about what it is that you guys are doing as it pertains to lighting. One of our research reports was on pedestrian lighting. What do you guys do for pedestrian lighting? Lighting in the right of way. So things like that, you have to call people, you have to email people. And one thing I will encourage you with is I'm a product of being an intern. I used to be, at one point in my career, the county manager's intern for Alachua County. I also used to be the city manager's intern in the city of Alachua, where I'm from. And so I'm a product of being an intern. So I can tell you full hand, a good internship goes a long way, an extremely long way. I turned around from in Alachua County and I got hired where I interned at. Morgan is now on staff with us where she interned at. And I'll tell you, Sherry, and Morgan will share this later, I had never met Morgan at all. Couldn't even tell you what Morgan looked like. I met Morgan through her writing. I met Morgan through the research and the papers that I saw her produce. And that's how I met her. And I was like, wow, this is really good. I never even looked at a presentation that Morgan gave. It was strictly based off the writing. And I'm so glad that I brought her on board, because she's just been a godsend for us and awesome. So I'll end with this. If you're looking for an opportunity to grow your writing skills and your research skills, your policy skills, if you're looking for an opportunity where you can interact with policies that's going to affect not only yourself, not only the commission, not only the city, but our neighbors, as we call our residents. If you're looking for that, this is the place. If you're looking to connect with other governmental units, commissioners here, members here of our staff, as well as members of other communities, of other city staffs across the country. We've even done research overseas as well. So if you're looking for that, to build that type of network of people that can see you do good work, here's that place. And I'll leave you with this. One of our fellows, current fellows, Erica, sent us an email this morning where research that she just presented on last week was in the alligator and on food insecurity. So you never know when your research is going to be utilized. You never know when your research is going to be leaned upon to be able to gain knowledge and information. So I'll end with, I'm excited. Hopefully you apply. Hopefully we get awesome and great candidates, as we always do. So I just want to encourage you that, hey, if you have any questions of me, let me know. I'm always available. And thank you, Carissa. And thank you, Graham Center, for this opportunity to share.
Awesome. Thanks, Soraya. That was a really fantastic overview of what a policy research fellow would have to look forward to in partnering with you. These other 5 placement opportunities reside in the department or the Office of Strategic Initiatives. And so there are a few which may end up working with me directly, but as part of the team that's representing SI, there are other staff members who are not present here in this presentation today that some of these positions would be mentored by. And so I will do my best to go through the description. I'm going to start though by posting a link in the chat that is a direct link to our office's page within the city website. It doesn't go into a great amount of detail, but it kind of gives you an overview of what the Strategic Initiatives Office is all about. And I'm going to preface my explanation of these placement opportunities with our office, and yes, I'm biased because I work for it, but we are unique in that we have the privilege of working across the entire institution as well as the entire community with the type of work that we do. I think sometimes from an outsider's perspective, at least my perspective on local government prior to working for the city was that I didn't really understand all that went into what a city job could be. I mean, there's obviously the solid waste division. That's pretty known that, our municipal trash is part of what the city services offers. We have things like, well, we know that transportation has something to do with the city. We know that street lighting has something to do with the city. We know that policy, laws, things of that nature. That sounds like a government type job, but beyond that, I didn't really have a great understanding for what the city does. And so my office is unique in that we strive to make all of the functions of the city improved through strategic projects, but we really, really focus on what the experience is for members of our community whom we refer to as neighbors in the city, what those neighbors' experiences are like. How can we improve the lives of the people that are living in our community? And as Soraya started to mention, that goes beyond what you may think of as a core city function. We look at all manner of things, from transportation to housing, to community-based programs, to food accessibility, to, and then we delve into the realm of partnership and how are we working across our institutions to ensure that we are collaborating and using the resources of all of our institutions in the best way possible to improve the experience for our community. And so with that, understanding, a couple of these fellowship positions hopefully will become a little bit more clear. And so our visual graphic design fellowship position, as well as our full stack development prototyping position, both of those would be working in the division of the Strategic Initiatives Office that is called our Neighbor-Centered Design Team. And so this group of staff and fellows are really focused on the design element of some of the communications materials, some of the programming, the experiential opportunities for how we are making services most accessible to our community members and ensuring that they are designed in a way that is easy to understand, are engaging, are asking our community members for feedback. One of the things that we value a great deal at the City of Gainesville is not just our ability to put information out into our community, but the ability to get information back from the community. And so we have an iterative dialogue, and that we are putting things out into the community that then we get feedback of, hey, maybe you could change this and make it more accessible to people, or hey, have you thought about this in this way of designing? And so our neighbor-centered design team really uses things like intercept surveys, user experience testing modalities, as well as, standard tools of graphic design and some of the software affiliated with that, as well as the development of actual software prototyping to be able to improve the experiences of some of our neighbors. I will also put into the chat. If I, maybe in a moment, I will put it in there, so I'm not trying to multitask, but we have a site called Design GNV. And for anybody who might be thinking, hey, visual graphic design or full stack development prototyping sounds of interest to me, you can check out our Design GNV page and get a sense for what some of these projects are that you might be working on, as you would be working directly with the director of that division in the development design testing of some of these projects. So that's one component. Then data visualization works with our strategic planning division of our office. And it's really around this need, which I'm sure you all understand from your experience as students, is especially if you're taking a course that may not be, your niche, it may be something new. Sometimes the jargon and the way that things are explained make it a lot more complicated to understand than it necessarily needs to be. It almost feels like sometimes you're reading a foreign language. And so our data visualization person, our fellow, is really tasked with the ability to put things that might seem complex, things that have a lot of really pertinent, helpful information for our neighbors to know, but just aren't in a language that is most accessible, put it into visuals that allow that information to be more easily digested, no matter who you are in our community. And so we are looking for ways to communicate sometimes to younger audiences, to older audiences, communicating information about any number of things, whether it be climate resilience, whether it be well-being, whether it be budgetary matters from the city. And so we actually have a portal called our open data portal. There's data GNV and stat GNV. And I will put those links into the chat as well so that you can peruse those. But we have something that's called our data dashboards, which may be a term that you all are familiar with, that really allow us to put our data into visual displays, into graphics that make it a little bit easier to understand. So the data visualization fellow will be very much assisting with that realm of project. And Adi is actually our data visualization fellow right now. And so when he goes to speak and give his take on what it means to be a fellow, hopefully he can go a little bit deeper into what some of those projects have been like for him to work on. And then these other two positions are community-based research fellow and our community development fellow. Oh, thank you, Anna. She just posted into the chat one of the links that I was going to post. So thank you, Anna. Our community-based research fellow this past year has actually been working directly with our city manager. And they, in a similar platform to how the policy research fellows work, this is very much a position where you have to be able to be quick, you have to be a good writer, and you have to be willing to dive deep. And so the fellow in this position will take direction from the city manager to research any number of areas that have come up as a point of interest for our city manager, for some of our commissioners, looking at models from other places about how to integrate innovative solutions to some of our complex problems facing our city, whether it be around food accessibility, housing. Recently, we had one of our community-based research fellow looking at some issues of food accessibility and innovative models that they were then actually able to share with our policy research fellows. And there was a little bit of like cross-department collaboration that was going on there. So that's primarily that position. The community development fellow is one that would work directly with me, and in a similar way would be doing some research on models from other places, but also expanding that research to be more boots on the ground and potentially doing some intercept survey, a lot of networking with our local neighbors, reaching out to local nonprofits, and again, in areas that could cross many different sectors, but looking at how do we help to build a resilient community in more of a grassroots effort. So while city government is a top in some ways a top-down institution, as all government is. We really strive to have our neighbors be the driver of a lot of the initiatives that are being put forth by the city. And so this fellow would be tasked with doing some of that boots on the ground engagement with our community to ensure that their ideas, their needs, their solutions are the drivers of the programs that we're eventually putting forth. So yeah, I think that gives a decent summary. Marianne, is there anything that you'd like me to go deeper into?
I think so. I think in a minute here, we're going to hear from Addie and Morgan and open for questions. So it was exciting for me to hear from you all because I have read the descriptions, but I think having some of those more basic phrases put forth is helpful. So let's quickly move forward to the application process and important dates. The application is open right now. I believe Anna's dropping a link in the chat there now for easy access. It is due in approximately 2 or 3 weeks on Sunday, March 21st at midnight. A recommendation letter is required. There are 2 ways you can submit that: through the application, or you can submit it directly to me if your individual wishes to remain anonymous. We then package all those materials, vet the applications, and then share those with the city. The city then reviews them and will reach out to you if you're granted an interview opportunity beginning in early April, with the assumption that all interviews are finished before the end of term, and then offers and placements are made by mid-May. It could go a little bit more quickly. It might take a little bit longer. It just depends on the hiring processes with the city. You'll do your course registration over the summer with me or during drop ad in August. Sometimes you guys are away for the summer and it's just easier to do that during the drop ad week. And again, that would be either IDS 4940 or something in your home department. And then finally, internships begin in mid-August, roughly when term begins, but I believe, and Carissa, correct me if I'm wrong, those start dates are actually decided with their individual placements. It's not as though we mandate it has to start August 10th or something, so. All right, so Addie, I see you're here on my screen first. So would you mind unmuting and telling us a few pieces about your experience? And then Morgan, if you'd share a little bit as well, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So Addie?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Marianne. And since I'm sort of here representing all of the current interns, I'll speak first about just the general sort of experience. And to do that, I'm gonna first echo what Zaraya was saying about interpersonal relationships. That is so important, especially during quarantine and COVID, when it's so hard to stay connected with anyone. It's been a special, almost surprise to me, since I also, like Carissa was saying earlier, didn't exactly know what a city job entailed. And what it entailed was working with an amazing team and staying connected with each other and trying to connect with all these other teams that are a part of the office, and sometimes even trying to get a hold of someone who knows a thing about a project we're working on that was sort of hoisted upon us just this week. And it's all been very exciting. Since, in my experience, this fellowship is simultaneously wide-ranging, but also personal. It's simultaneously team-oriented, but also provides many opportunities for individual enterprise. If you're a go-getter, you will enjoy this. And I would say that there are some points where the red tape or obtuseness of any sort of government functions does creep in, but at the same time, the city of Gainesville is very cutting edge. Obviously, I haven't worked for a dozen cities, so I can't say, maybe I'm a bit biased, but for sure I would say we are the place to be if you're an innovator. And the last thing I'll say, since I don't know how deep in the weeds you want to get with data viz, the last thing I'll say is that everyone I've worked with, especially my direct supervisors, Laura, Bobby, Carissa. They are so nice, and they've been so accommodating. And even though I've had like some scheduling snafus here and there, I seriously haven't had any qualms about meeting my 15-hour requirements from week to week. And I would say this even if Carissa and Zariah weren't here. These are very nice people.
Thanks, Addie, for sharing. Morgan, would you mind unmuting and sharing a little bit about your experience? Morgan was a fellow a year ago, and so talk a little bit about both that experience and what you're doing now at the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Marianne. So I think that I'm really glad to be here and discussing this opportunity because it was one of the more kind of formative things that I was a part of in my time at UF. And I think one part of that, and Addie and Carissa both mentioned this, is like the potential that lies in local government is something that maybe I wasn't fully familiar with. I think that a lot of us can become, who are interested in policy, become kind of siloed in thinking that, you know, change happens at the federal level, and that if you want to make a difference, that's where you need to be. And I think that this fellowship really showed me the opportunity and the potential that's in local government to really make a change in your community. And you get to hear all of the ideas that our local elected officials have and our city administrators have to actually change Gainesville and make it better for those of us living there. So I think that's a super important portion. I think that the second portion is that one of the great things about the policy research position is that you are not limited to a certain policy field in this position. So you get exposed to policy research in healthcare policy and environmental policy and economic policy and social policy and everything in between. And so especially as college students, when you're trying to decide what it is that you want to be doing after you graduate, it's a really good opportunity to be exposed to all these different types of policies and understand where your interests really lie. And then also that everyone in this program is just really invested in students and having students succeed and having you all succeed. So as Zariah mentioned, I'm still currently employed by the city as a policy research assistant. And I would not have had that position had I not been a fellow, because the position was really created specifically for me. It didn't exist prior to this year. And so Zariah really worked hard to make sure that I had a place in the city after I graduated and I was no longer a fellow. And so that opportunity of having mentors and supervisors who are really invested in your success, and as Addie mentioned, like are very flexible surrounding realizing that you're a student and that your academics come first. I think that that's a really important element of the program. But then just briefly about what I do now as a policy research assistant, it's fairly similar to the work that I did as a fellow. There's a more administrative component where I help Zariah with meeting with commissioners and commissioner research requests. And then I do a lot of the editing of policy reports from the fellows, but I still conduct research myself. I still do presentations for the commissioners. But yeah, like I mentioned, I very much enjoyed my time as a fellow. It has very much guided, where I want to be in life and in my career. And I very much appreciated the opportunity and would be happy to answer any questions that any of you have.
Morgan and Addie, thank you guys so much. Really useful and helpful information. Just to let everyone here on the Zoom know, this presentation will be sent around afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and close out the share and let you all ask questions either through the chat or the raise hand function. So now I can see, are there any questions or anything else? Oh, go ahead, Gus.
Thank you, Marianne. And thank you guys for taking the time to speak to us. I've certainly really appreciated. So I have a kind of a general question, which is what makes, obviously this is a competitive program, so what makes an application stand out?
I can take a stab at that one. So from my perspective, there are really two elements that make an application stand out. One is your ability to show that you have some experience specific to the position that is being offered. So as I think was posted in the chat, each of these descriptions will be hired for individually. We're looking for somebody specifically to apply for each position. You don't apply generally for the fellowship. You let us know which one you specifically are looking for. And so we would hope that you're able to provide us with some level of experience in working in that field, whether it's just academic experience, extracurricular work that you've done, specific project-based work that you've done academically or not. We want to see your stuff. We want to know, what you've done. So any evidence that you can show towards that is very beneficial. And then above and beyond that, I think it's kind of twofold. One, your willingness to try new things and to be creative in doing so, to kind of step outside your comfort zone. We have to be rather nimble with working at the city and our ability to shift directive a little bit. And so just your ability to be flexible in that nature. The other thing that I think helps stand out is your commitment, your dedication, the why of why you're applying. We know that, you could be applying to any number of part-time jobs. There's no shortage of them available in Gainesville. So why did you pick this fellowship with the city? Why are you looking to both gain hands-on experience with us, and what would you hope to be the outcome of your time there? Is it all for your own experience, or is there some other benefit that you wish to be able to provide to the city and to the community at large, and being able to convey that? This is a job. It's a paid position. It's 15 hours a week. We do treat our fellows like employees, and that, certainly you receive the mentorship of the person that you're working under as your supervisor. But there is a significant level of, we have expectations. And so to be able to convey that you would be a good worker per se, to fill that role will help your application.
I could add to that too. For me, you're going to definitely have to have a writing sample submitted for the policy research fellow, because we do heavy writing. So a writing sample is going to be needed. But I'm going to tell you something else I want to see. I want to actually see your personality. I want to see what are those creative things you've done. Watch this, that have nothing to do with policy whatsoever. So I want to get to know who you are. As you can see, my personality is not that of, so I'm looking for a certain vibe, a certain fit with me and my team. And I'll tell you this, I hired Morgan based off of her writing, never had met her. And for the record, me and Morgan have never met in person either. Morgan doesn't live here, so know that as well. So Morgan doesn't even live here. So I've never met her in person. But through the writing, I was so intrigued. And so then through calling her and talking to her, I was like, oh, okay. Then I like the personality. I like the vibe that I got. So I'll tell you, I'm looking for a vibe. I'm looking for strong writing skills, but I'm looking for those interpersonal skills that are going to transform and take your career to that next level. I'll tell you, my career went from here to here really, really, really fast. And the reason was not just because I graduated from University of Florida, not because I got a master's degree. It wasn't that. I will tell you, it was who I knew. It is who I developed relationships with that helped me in my career. So I want to see those type of things because I think once you get into this environment, in this culture, especially on our side, no offense, Carissa, but especially on our side, you'll be able to get engulfed into this organization. And once people meet you, once you start interacting with people in other organizations, they're going to remember you. Because one of the things I'm going to hopefully mentor you in, you always want to make sure that you're memorable to people. You always want to make sure that if nothing else, they remember you for something. It don't even have to be for a policy. It has to be, you know what, every time I talk to them, they always so nice. Every time I talk to them, they always say, hey, how's your morning? How are you doing? whatever that thing is. And so that's some of the things we want to do. So that's what I'm looking for.
Thanks
That's
for the
actually-
memorable answer.
That's actually a really important point, Zariah, about sort of culture and organizational culture and how one individual fits there or learns from that experience. I also wanted to bring up, there's a question in the chat that I think is just useful to repeat out loud for the recording, but there was a question about who should the recommendation letter come from. The Graham Center, by and large, for those letters that we gather for the city, is looking for it to come from a prior employer or professor, someone who can speak to your professional or academic work. It doesn't necessarily have to 100% be one of those people, but it shouldn't be per se from a roommate or a friend or a family member. It needs to be someone who can speak to your experience and or what you hope to gain and learn from the opportunity. I hope that answers that question. Are there any other questions in the room? Anything we missed or? Okay. Well, Carissa and Zariah and Addie and Morgan, it means we answered everything. John has another question. Will the internship be completed in person? From UF standpoint, you can do internships in person, assuming you are following the local guidelines. I will let Carissa and Zariah answer, although it may be a bit early to say what will happen come August.
So from the strategic initiatives team standpoint, to be determined. At this point, our team is still working entirely remotely. We have been since the start of the pandemic. We do have space, certainly, where if our team returns to working in our we actually moved. We're not directly in City Hall. We're in the building adjacent to City Hall. But we have space for our fellows to be on site with us, if indeed that is what the team does. But we, and Addie can probably attest to this, we have, I think, not missed a beat in terms of the work that we're able to get done through a virtual setting. So, and our current fellows, I'll just give a special shout out to Addie and the cohort working with strategic initiatives, because we have not had the opportunity to work in person with them either, but they went above and beyond to create some virtual experiences for our team around team building capacity. We even did a gingerbread house competition around the holidays that they facilitated. So don't worry, we still make it a very fun and collaborative environment, whether it's through the screen or in person.
So
Go ahead, Zariah.
I'll add to that. One of the things they did prior to me coming that I got brung on, like literally right when the pandemic occurred. Like I met my boss in person 2 days and then I didn't see her no more for several weeks. And the reason I'm sharing is because they used to, and I really hope we can do this during you guys' turn. We used to go on field trips to the Deer Haven plant, to fire stations, to all types of things throughout the city. So you just didn't have an experience just with us. We tried to make sure that it was holistic as possible, and you got a chance to move around the city. So for example, I have another Zoom coming up with a city official that's going to share with our fellows. The city clerk has already done that, of course, but we're going to have opportunities like that virtually. But I'm really, 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 really hopeful that we could possibly do something in the fall or spring of next year in terms of being able to have some form of field trips, if you will, that we can go and share you other experiences throughout the city. So we can show you some things that people may not be aware that this is something that the city does.
That's really useful information. I also wanted to make one more note on the recommendation letter. Some of you who are joining this chat today are actually pretty consistent Graham Center students. And I did want to say that the Graham Center in this case can support you with a recommendation letter because we do not make the final decision on who's placed in what offices. So I know that's a question that has come up before for some other opportunities, but in this case, we can write you letters of recommendation. So do reach out early if you want one so that we can get that in on time to Carissa and Zariah. Are there
also,
other...
I want to share this. So this is a free mentoring thing for you guys. Even during this Zoom, some of you, I have randomly took your name and Googled you. So I already know what program you're with. I know what organizations you are a part of. And I've just done that randomly in this Zoom. I will share this. One of you have already hit me up on LinkedIn since this Zoom has been occurring. It's always remember, it's going to be the little things that people are going to be like, okay, that was good. So keep those things in mind. However, even with all of those things, you still got to be able to write. You can't be nice and then can't write. It doesn't work like that. But I just want to just give you little nuggets of things that could help in the future. So thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thank you, Zariah. Are there any other questions, comments, things you all would like to share? We will send the recording out most likely tomorrow, and along with links to the detailed job descriptions and the application. And some of the resources I believe that Carissa shared in here, I think we'll share those with you as well. All right, well, thank you all so much. It was a pleasure to see you. Thank you for your interest in the program, and to our speakers today, thank you for your time. And have a great day.
And if anybody has questions that you think of after, feel free to shoot us an email.
Thanks, Carissa.